Little known fact, Ryan. Guardians of the Galaxy actually filmed right here on Earth.
No. Are you serious? That's one of my favorite movies. Don't tell me that. I mean, and what's next? You're going to tell me that Thor isn't actually filmed in Asgard?
Well, hate to break it to you, my friend.
Welcome to Allegedly with Bo and Ryan, the only entertainment and law podcast that brings you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Allegedly.
I'm Bo Bowen.
And I'm Ryan Schmidt.
You're listening to Allegedly with Bo and Ryan. We're coming to you from our law offices in beautiful, historic Savannah, Georgia, where we'll be chatting about pop culture, hot legal topics in the news, and doing our best to change the way people think about the law and lawyers.
But first, a little about us. Bo's beard is not real. It takes 90 minutes to apply each day.
Ryan's mustache, on the other hand, is very real and has been passed down in his family for 19 generations.
Together, we are Savannah's consummate renegade legal titans.
And the only corporate entertainment lawyers in the free world who have never lost a single case.
Allegedly.
Welcome to our second show, Ryan.
Hey.
Did you ever think we would make it this far?
Honestly, I did not.
Well, I understand completely. We had a few false starts, but now we're on the road to what's our goal here? 10,000 shows?
That sounds realistic. But let's just start with one podcast every 2 weeks.
All right, fair enough. Now, last time I know you wanted to talk about movies and television and the things they get wrong about lawyers. Well, today I thought I want to chat. We could chat about some potential threats to the movie and television industry, particularly to the Georgia film and television industry, and whether or not we should really actually be concerned about them. Now, I know, because you told me, you've been reading a little bit about the current state of the entertainment industry in Georgia, Ryan. So how have things been looking recently?
Really good, Bo. I mean, since 2015, the Georgia legislature passed comprehensive tax incentives for film and television professionals looking to come in and really take advantage of the rebates that the state had to offer. And each year, it's been growing steadily. There's been more infrastructure that's come to the state. And the exclamation point on all of that is this past year, there's been $4.4 billion of economic impact in the state of Georgia from film and television productions.
And is that a record for Georgia?
That is by far the best year that we've ever had.
Well, that's pretty cool. Well, I have to imagine, Ryan, that ironically, one of the biggest reasons for that is COVID. The very thing that actually almost destroyed the entertainment industry. It created such a vacuum for, productions for film and television. All the studios kind of went through their catalog, everything they had on the shelf because nothing could film, that now there's this huge demand for production. Who would have ever thought it?
Yeah, no, it's so true. I mean, I remember back in the early days of COVID sitting down, watching Tiger King, and I was happy to do it. But, I was thinking, what are they going to do when all these shows run out? And we're experiencing it right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Every place is filled to capacity. And as you mentioned, the infrastructure is unbelievable. I mean, right now, there are over 120 sound stages in Georgia. And every single one, to my understanding, is pretty much at capacity and has a waiting list to get in there. And I think I read recently that there's over 50 that are at somewhere in the process of being built. So, you've got to figure that $4.4 billion is only going to be going up as we move forward.
And so what's the benefit, you think, of more studios coming to town and, allows productions to kind of make a home here and work year after year? Why is that good for us?
Well, stages in general, the reason they prefer them is they can come in, they can move in, and by a sound stage, we're just referring to basically a studio, a big giant room where they can come in and they can build their sets. They can leave all their equipment overnight. They can stay there, for weeks, months, even years. Some, like Marvel will go to a stage and rent it for, multiple years and have just all their same crew, all their equipment, everything there. They don't have to, like in Savannah, we don't have any stages. So in Savannah, basically everything is filmed on location. So you have to move it all in, you have to move it all out. But a stage allows you to just keep it there. And, like I said, the most successful ones, they have long-term contracts for years and years and years.
Sounds like a pretty good argument to bring a stage to Savannah, don't you think?
Well, considering there's going to be almost 200, and right now there's 0 in Savannah, yeah, I'd say that's a pretty good argument. But, I think another reason we've seen such an incredible, booming year is all those same things that brought people to Georgia in the first place, they're all still present. That state tax credit, the incentives. Think about other things. Think about the climate in Georgia. You can film here year round for the most part. And there's some part of Georgia that can literally stand in for almost any place in the entire world.
No, that's a good point. I haven't thought about that.
Yeah, I mean, you've got mountains, you've got ocean, you've got modern cities, you've got places like Savannah where there's a lot of history and old historical structures. We have everything. And, if we don't have it, then we got about 10 billion green screens that can damn well make it. So just ask Marvel. Little known fact, Ryan, Guardians of the Galaxy actually filmed right here on Earth.
No. Are you serious? That's one of my favorite movies. Don't tell me that. And what's next? You're going to tell me that Thor isn't actually filmed in Asgard?
Well, hate to break it to you, my friend.
Breaking my heart today. Well, let's not forget that, we are doing our part here in Savannah, too. We've got the Savannah Film Alliance that you started, Southern Gateway Production Services, and just what we're doing here with the Bowen Law Group. What can you tell me about that?
Well, look, Savannah it's not just us. We're trying to do our part, obviously, but the Savannah Regional Film Commission, we got to shout them out. They are doing an amazing job selling Savannah to productions all over the world to come here and all the benefits that we can provide them. And if we can continue to provide that infrastructure, it's just going to get better and better. So things are looking really good right now. Things are up all over. But if you remember, Mr. Schmidt, that was not my original point here. I want to talk about some of the threats to that $4.4 billion that's going to, and its ever rocketing increase. Overall, to me, there is one threat that is far and away the greatest threat to the entertainment industry in Georgia.
Aliens.
Nope. Close. The Georgia legislature.
No kidding.
Oh, my God. Throwing up roadblocks. These politicians are killing me. So let's talk about some of their greatest hits, okay? The one everybody was talking about recently, the heartbeat bill. Well, remind everybody what that was all about.
Okay, so the heartbeat bill, which has actually gone into effect now, given the recent Supreme Court ruling, look to limit any legal abortions after the detection of a fetal heartbeat, which was about 6 weeks. When that first was introduced over 3 years ago, the ACLU filed a lawsuit. Hollywood, threatened to boycott. And it was really a big threat to the entertainment industry in Georgia, to the point where all these different studios were making commitments to move elsewhere or threats to move elsewhere. And luckily that law was stayed while the new Supreme Court case was being decided. But it really had a chance to put a pause button on everything that's been built up.
Well, yeah, no doubt about it. And I remember back then we were all saying, look, there's no reason to worry. There's no chance in the world this will ever go into effect. It's clearly unconstitutional. Of course, not realizing that how the makeup of the Supreme Court would change over the next several years.
Yeah, I had a little bit more faith in stare decisis and precedent, maybe naively, but yeah, we're here.
But, they say the Supreme Court is not political, right? Not at all. But here's the ironic thing about it, I think. All those same arguments that people made about why, boycott Georgia, they passed this law. Well, because of the Supreme Court decisions in that Dobbs case, overturning Roe versus Wade, now you've got almost, half the states in the country that are in the process or already have outlawed abortion in some way. And so it's almost giving Georgia a little bit of a break, because it's like, what are you gonna say? You're not gonna film anywhere? What if Congress passes? Which, look, don't think for a second they won't try. If the Republicans take control of Congress in the next election, they could outlaw abortion in the entire country. What happens then? You only going to film in Canada and Mexico?
Good point.
It's a scary time. It's like what's the country in The Handmaid's Tale? I don't watch that show, but
oof, yeah, I know it feels like that sometimes. That's why I had to stop watching that show. It's like it's too close to home. But we also had the voter law. I mean, tell me what happened there.
Well, that was when they came in after Biden won Georgia, and they thought, well, here's what we'll do. We'll just make it way harder for people that voted for Biden to vote. So they passed all these new rules and regulations that were definitely targeting minority neighborhoods, majority black neighborhoods. They were closing down. They passed rules about, not being able to keep polling places open on Sunday, limiting hours only in very targeted districts, all clearly designed to suppress votes in certain areas. So, again, not Georgia's finest moment.
And as a result of that, there was some real legitimate calls to boycott Georgia again. And I'm glad that, that has subsided. But I would say that there's constantly threats that are coming from the state legislator, even to the incentive itself.
Oh my God. Of everything we mentioned, that was easily the most dangerous. They tried to I don't even remember who it was, but someone in the legislature tried to put in a bill that was clearly going to pass just at the last minute some restrictions on the Georgia entertainment incentive. They wanted to make it non-transferable. And what that means is when a production is going to film in Georgia, they turn in their budget, okay? And they get a letter, it's called a pre-certification letter, letting the production know, this is what you're going to be entitled to, in tax credits if you spend this amount of money that's in your budget. So productions can actually take that pre-certification letter and sell it, usually in the neighborhood of 80 cents on the dollar, and sell those credits and transfer them in advance and use that then to help finance their production, the picture. So by making that non-transferable, that really would do some major damage to, the appeal of the incentive in the first place. On top of that, they wanted to put a cap on exactly what productions could be entitled to. Now there's no cap at all. If you come into Georgia and you spend $10 billion, and guess what? You're going to be entitled to 30%. So, that was had that passed, and trust me, the industry as one rose up literally overnight and said, we do not need to do this. And it luckily got yanked out really quickly. But again, what does the legislature hold in store for us next? Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I remember when we found that article that they were looking to do that. I remember how chaotic even our office was with the phone calls trying to get people on the horn and say this is a stupid idea. But certainly you've got a lot of knowledge in this area. You're really passionate about protecting the film and television industry in Georgia. I got to say, I was reading Variety magazine, maybe you've heard of it, and there was somebody I knew, the founder of the Savannah Film Alliance, Mr. Bowen, and they talked to you about what the ongoing threats look like, and tell me about that experience.
Well, look, I appreciate hearing from a publication like Variety. I mean, they're very well respected. They cover things, but basically my message to them was the whole idea of restricting the incentives was 100% dumb. So, it wasn't. Look, the fact of the matter is, we've got to be vigilant always, these threats. We have to take them seriously. And the fact of the matter is the vast majority of them thus far have been internal. It's been that state legislature being short-sighted, trying to restrict people's freedom, their rights. I mean, it's just they want to march Georgia backwards instead of forwards. And so, we have to remain ever willing to be alert, to fight, to react, and do what we need to do to make sure that doesn't happen. But I should mention, not all the threats are internal. There are some external threats too. Now, I mean, when you got over $4 billion at stake, then there's going to be some other people gunning for you.
Oh, for sure. I mean, every other state in this country, especially states like California and New York that have historically had huge film industries, now they're feeling a little bit, jealous of what, the attention Georgia's getting. I mean, I saw an article last week where Governor Newsom of California wasted no time trying to take political advantage of Dobbs' case and overturn Roe v. Wade, and basically said that there's no need to film in Georgia. Just everybody come back. Every production of all time in the future should just be in California.
Well, let me get a little philosophical with you here, Ryan. Now, in the words of the immortal Socrates, Gavin Newsom is a dipshit. I mean, what a self-serving, cowardly position. I mean, I get that he wants to promote his state, and okay, he's the governor, that's his job. But California isn't exactly hurting for entertainment dollars and productions. I mean, but he's essentially saying, let's just give up. Let's not fight. Let's run and hide in the safe zones. Let's screw all the hardworking entertainment industry workers in dozens of states with Republican legislatures. Let them go broke. Forget about them. Probably why Socrates said that in the first place.
Sure.
Well, I have the exact amount of respect for that position that it deserves. Absolutely none. That's not how we're going to change things. I mean, we are going to fight and we are going to win. We are going to change things. And guess what, Mr. California Governor? We're going to keep making movies and TV shows right here in Georgia while we're doing it.
I love that. So good. And you also got to think there's other states besides those states that have been historically built up with these big entertainment industries that are trying to jump into the fray. They're trying to chase after those quick bucks. It seems like every other week I'm seeing another state trying to pass incentives that are equal to or surpass what's going on in Georgia just to drive those production dollars into their states.
Well, you're right, but it ain't going to work, and I'll tell you why. The incentives themselves are an important part. Okay, and so, yes, any state can pass an incentive just like Georgia's, but that is by no means the most important part. Georgia has spent decades and literally billions of dollars building up an infrastructure and a crew base to meet the needs of the film industry. No one outside of New York or California can even come close to that. All right. I mean, and you can't undersell how important that is. I mean, let me make an analogy. So think about it like this. Okay. There are dozens and dozens of honeymoon suites on both the U.S. and the Canadian side of Niagara Falls. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that's a very popular honeymoon destination. Okay. Now, what if Hayhira, Georgia, suddenly decided one day that they wanted in on some of that sweet honeymoon cash, okay? So they rush out and they immediately build dozens and dozens and dozens of honeymoon suites right in the heart of Hayhira, Georgia. Now, don't get me wrong, Ryan. I'm sure they would be lovely. One problem, they're missing the waterfalls. You gotta have both, or you're never gonna compete. So you gotta have the incentive, and you gotta have the ability to actually follow through with the infrastructure.
So we've been talking a lot about different threats to the Georgia film and television industry, but there's certainly been national threats that have also shut down this state or threatened to shut down the state and really the whole country while we're at it. I mean, COVID, hello, the pandemic.
Oh, that wasn't just the United States. That was basically the world.
Are you serious? I thought it was flat. Man, you're absolutely right. I mean, it was really interesting to see how creative production companies got in trying to recycle footage and make like at-home Zoom watching parties with like reality shows. But there's only so much of that you could really do, and the production dollars were really, really hurting at that point.
Oh, for sure. And let's not forget, monkeypox is out there.
Don't remind me. Okay, so I mean the other thing that I think about is just how close we came to another nationwide industry shutdown with the IATSE strikes.
Oh, man. Yeah, we were within literally 2 or 3 votes of that happening. For people that don't remember, that was when they were negotiating the new contracts for the upcoming years. And the members themselves were voting on whether to accept the recommendation of IATSE. And if not, then the entire industry, all the crew was going to walk off of every production for the foreseeable future. I mean, that could have been catastrophic for the industry.
And how close did that come to almost happening?
So close that there was a period of time that people, when the vote first came in, people thought, okay, it's happened. We've lost the vote. It's time for the strike. And the word was going out when suddenly it was like, oh, no, wait. It turns out that it did pass by literally a few hundred votes nationwide.
Oh, my God. Yeah, you can't get much closer than that. So for listeners that don't know, what is IATSE?
Well, that stands for the International Alliance of Theatrical and Stage Employees. Basically, it's a labor union that covers almost all of the crew on movies. You know, there's a lot of unions and guilds that have a lot of authority over productions. You know, you've got SAG, Screen Actors Guild, SAG-AFTRA, that really, you know, represents most of the cast. You've got, you know, Teamsters with drivers, but IATSE is by far the biggest of all the unions, and they represent, I would say, probably 90% of the crew. So needless to say, if IATSE goes on strike, you ain't going to have any movies.
But, I mean, I see all these television shows, you know, Ben Stiller executive produces or directs everything, so he could just, you know, he could star in it, he could film it. Would it really be a big deal?
I'm pretty sure Ben himself would tell you, yeah, it would be a big deal. So, I mean, IATSE's, they do incredible work. And what people don't tend to forget is, you know, the real importance of the unions is not just to, you know, make certain that their members are taken care of, which is obviously the fact. You want to make sure they have health benefits, that the, you know, retirement, I mean, there's a lot of benefits to being in the union. But by far, to me, what I see as the most important is the safety aspect. You know, almost every time you hear of a tragic accident that happens, it's because it was a non-union production, like Sarah Jones here in the Savannah area a few years ago. Non-union production. They really place a huge importance on safety. And so for that reason, you know, it's a good thing that they were able to work that out.
Absolutely, Bo. And I know that you do quite a bit of work with IATSE too.
Yeah. Our firm is what's called a term signatory, meaning that if any production needs a contract, what's called the term contract, the low budget theatrical term agreement with IATSE, they can come to us and we can help them procure it. So even productions that are independent or low budget, we can make sure they have access to the absolute best rates, terms, and conditions in the industry.
How much savings could a production get from that?
Well, I mean, you've got two choices. If you don't go through a signatory and get the term agreement, then you have to negotiate what they call a single production deal. And almost every term of that is going to be significantly higher. So you're talking about, I'm going to say, in the neighborhood of 10 to 15% higher. So that may not sound like much in theory, but think about it. In a $1 million movie, you save $150,000. That's a big chunk of change.
Yeah, no kidding. You can hire as many Ben Stillers as you want for that.
Well, at least someone named Ben. Look, long story short, even with these challenges, Georgia's going to be fine. As long as movie producers can find everything they need and save money while they're at it, they're going to keep coming to Georgia.
You know what I think is a pretty good sign? There are people a whole lot smarter than us still spending billions of dollars a year right now building new studios and stages in Georgia. I don't think we'd see that happening if the industry was in imminent danger.
Yeah. I mean, you're absolutely right, but obviously we have to stay vigilant. We got to keep fighting for human rights and freedoms of every citizen of our state.
You mean kind of like how the Bowen Law Group has won dozens of Nobel Peace Prizes for our tireless work in fighting for justice?
Exactly right. Another reason why, of course, we're the most successful lawyers in the history of American jurisprudence.
Allegedly. Well, that's our show for today. Thanks for listening to the legal mastery of the highly intelligent and easily most attractive true legal out-lawyers in Savannah. And remember, the only lawyers in the free world who have never lost a single case.
Allegedly.
To continue to receive free, edge-of-your-seat legal anecdotes, mind-blowing takes on hot legal topics, and general masterclass in awesomeness, please head over to thebowenlawgroup.com/podcast and look for...
Dude, why are we asking? Just hit subscribe already.